Leonardo da Vinci, The Genius Who Defined the Renaissance, by John Phillip and presented by yours truly. This is the book. The boy from Vinci, a city in Italy. Leonardo was born on a Saturday, April 15th, 1452, at the third hour of the night, which meant third hour past sunset at 10:30 p.m. Leonardo was born to Sir Piero and Caterina. Sir meant lawyer at the time, and Caterina was a servant. Since they were of a different economical class, they were not to get married, and Leonardo was an illegitimate child. Since Leonardo was an illegitimate child, he was not allowed to get a proper education. He was described as an unlettered man since he was not allowed to learn Latin. Caterina, his mother, raised him until he was 1 year old and gave him to his grandparents to raise. Sir Piero was not around during his childhood and worked in Florence, where he met one of his new brides. Moved to Florence. At the age of 12, Leonardo moved in with his father and new wife in Florence from Vinci. It was an exciting time for him. At around the age 14, his father, who was a well-connected lawyer, introduced Leonardo to Andrade de Versailles, who was a successful artist who trained young apprentices how to become artists. Leonardo was a very good drawer, and some would say that because of his lack of a formal education, allowed him to become more independent and creative free thinker. Andrea trained painters, sculptors, and worked in his workshop called how do you say that one again? A bottega. At the time, it resembled a small factory producing works of art, and even had chickens for eggs for the artists around 1866. Training as an artist. At around the age of 20, Leonardo finished his training with Andrea. Andrea, yeah, I said it right. With Andrea, he became a member of the Painters Guild. He then completed one of his first paintings, the portrait Ginevra de Vinci. Leonardo was known for starting paintings and not finishing. He worked with Andrea for about 5 more years and then decided at around age 25 to go out on his own. He was struggled to make ends meet and decided to move to Milan in 1480. His father at this point was on his 3rd marriage. Arriving in Milan, just 190 miles north of Florence, he had no intentions of working just as a musician. He wanted to work in the worlds of art, engineering, and theater. The world was open for him. He played the lyre. He was looking for new patrons to commission him for his work for new work. During this time, he drew up designs of the horse. In 1999, the horse was built by America and given to Milan as a gift from the United States. They used the same cast to cast another horse, and it is in the Fred Meyer's Garden in Grand Rapids, Michigan today. Leonardo was a true Renaissance man. He was not only an artist but a teacher, and took on apprentices for some of which were rowdy a rowdy bunch, but they were his friends until the 1480s. Leonardo began writing in his notebook, where he would draw mirror images, physics, and one of his notebooks, known as the Codex Lenzera, which Bill Gates bought in 1994 for $30 million. His notebook contained many ideas way ahead of his time. In 1495, Leonardo was commissioned to decorate many rooms in the Casa dello Sforza, the home of the Sforza family. He was then commissioned to paint the Last Supper, Christ's last meal. The results of the masterpiece became to one of Leonardo's most famous fresco paintings. Unfortunately, it flaked off many times, and it had to be restored. So much of that, only about 20% of it is still visible. The Art of War. Leonardo in the 1480s designed great works of bridges, tunnels, military weapons, secret underground rooms, sword-eating shields, giant catapult, multi-barreled guns, massive crossbows, shrapnel-throwing cannons, and flamethrowers. He nearly took 20 years before his military ambitions became reality. In 1502, he was appointed an engineer to powerful Caesar Borgetta, an illegitimate son of the Pope Alexander VI, commander of the Pope army in commander of the Pope's army in 1481. Leonardo wrote, "Also, I will make covered cars safe and unsaleable, which will enter among enemy with their artillery, and there is no company of men that arms so great that will not break it. And behind these infantries will not be able to follow quiet, unharmed, without any hindrance." Leonardo dreamt of flight. His fascination of how birds inspired him to draw out a flying machine that would be a ship in the air and essentially look like a flying air screw. And that what they'd call it. That was what they called it.
Oh,
that was what they called it. I forgot to write it. That's why I screwed up. This was hundreds of years ahead of his time. Like many of Leonardo's concepts, it was left unfinished. Was a better starter and brilliant mind. In 1485, he invented a parachute. In 1490, Leonardo was fascinated by the power of water. He believed that water is to the world as blood is to our bodies. He in his notebook, designed submarines, dredges, paddleboards, and many other watercrafts. He used 64 different words to describe water.
Are you at 11?
Yeah, I'm at 11.
I think we put 11 on this side. 4. There we go.
In 1503, Leonardo da Vinci began to work on the Mona Lisa, which to this day is his most famous painting of all, and is in the Louvre in Paris. He spent about 4 years painting the Mona Lisa, meaning My Lady. In the early 1500s, he became obsessed with the human body and wanted to know how everything worked. The only way he could do this was by dissecting dead bodies. He dissected more than 30 men and women. The muscles which move the lips of the mouth are more numerous than any man than in any other animal, and this is necessary for him on account of many actions which these lips are continually employed, as in whistling, laughing, weeping, and similar actions. Also, the strange contortions he used by clowns, they imitate faces. Leonardo da Vinci. Now I just have to find 12.
Right there.
Where?
12 is right there.
Mine ain't too good. Leonardo's legacy is untouchable by any other artist known to man. His concept of art, science, and the human body, and engineering are notably one of the most forward-thinking of his time. His genius mind utilizing every concept of humanity, form life cycles, and life cycles to modern marvels, and he was a vegetarian who loved animals. He and a free thinker, and perhaps by him not being able to be taught like the rest of the other legitimate children, actually worked out in his favor. He thought his thoughts and independence should be recognized and studied in school, especially in modern times of systematic learning. In 2001, Norway built a bridge from his drawings. In 2002, Hyde sketched the proportions of the human body and put it on the back of the Italian's new euro coin. Over 500 years later, he's still a master.
How do you feel, and what did you learn?
Well, I learned that he pretty much he was way before his time, before the time of anything happens, like multi-barreled guns, flamethrowers, flying. That didn't happen till about 400 years later, because he sketched those up in 1400, and we didn't start flying till 1906, I think. So we didn't start flying till 1906, till the early 1900s, and so flying technology has only been around for 100 years, and he's been trying to fly. He was trying to fly to like more than like what 500 years ago.
So he had the
600
mind
years
of the
ago.
unimaginable.
Yeah, and guns weren't invented till the 18th century, like the 1700s, and even then they were just not very efficient. You know, you had to put your powder in, you had to put a wad in, then you had to put your ball in, then you had to put another wad in.
And a lot
with
of
a
people got
ramrod.
hurt, right?
A lot of it, yeah. I mean,
Killed a lot of people.
the invention of the gun killed lots of people. It's very with great power comes great responsibility, and lots of people aren't responsible with that power. But just when it came to guns, you can't mess around with those. He was trying to invent multi-barreled guns, and we have that now. We have, like, say, double-barrel shotguns, miniguns with 6 rotating barrels. So actually that's whoever came up with that design.
So you think his notebook was worth the
More.
$30 million that Bill
More.
Gates paid for it?
Well, Bill Gates, it's like $10.
I
but
know, right?
Bill Gates has like $6 billion in
So
the
the
bank.
irony of you sitting here is that you're sitting underneath a painting. It's a watercolor of Prague.
Yeah,
And Prague happens to be
nearly.
ran by water power.
Yeah.
Do you think Leonardo would have appreciated that?
Probably.
Right,
I
so-
think he would appreciate how far we've come in as humans, like how far we come. Like, he was talking about tanks, like
tanks, exactly.
armored covered cars. Well, they're not cars. They don't have wheels, but they have treads and tracks.
But he looked at it as the art of war, right?
He looked at the art of war. He looked at he tried making military, weapons, and he shouldn't try making planes, but he tried making the art of flight, which, if you think about it, is kind of.
But he had that
planes.
bronze background with Andrea.
Yeah, the giant bronze horse. I saw that. I'm like,
He had that as well. So
How did they
this.
cast? Oh, they casted that in 2002, though, right?
Well, that was just a bronze sculpture.
Yeah, but they casted it.
They cast it. There's one here in America, and the
One in
other
Milan.
one is in Milan, and the United States had gifted it. Remember, it's in your.
Yeah. I know. I remember, but just how did they cast that?
There's a clay cast.
So they made 2 clay casts.
So we can get more into
So
how
wait, they
those
made
are
2.
made.
So wait, 500 years ago there was a clay cast, and then they used his actual.
They used his drawings for the clay
Oh.
cast.
So they didn't use his actual cast.
And they also used his drawings, as you said, for the bridge and for the Euros.
Yeah, I mean.
So these
But
are.
it's crazy. I don't think he would have thought 600 years later that we'd still be using his.
We're using his intelligence.
Technology, like his intelligence, which, like.
So how valuable do you think that is? Is it priceless?
Oh yeah, intelligence is priceless.
So
Like, I mean,
as far as a free
obviously
thinker, and being able to explore and see the cycle of life, how do you feel about that?
feel about like him, or how is it being?
Yeah, or just understanding even the trees and everything else and how everything.
Well, he obviously, like, at that time nobody really knew a lot about the human body, and he wanted to learn about it. So and nobody really, I don't think nobody really wanted to, because they knew what they had to do to dissect a human body, which is just gross.
What we do to learn, though.
Well, that's what you got to do. You got to do what you got to do. And he was the only one really nuts enough to do it. I think he was a very smart, intelligent man, but also he was nuts at the same time. Like, he had to be.
Well, he would be what.
You have to be a little crazy to have these types of ideas, but it's not a bad thing. It's
Well,
a good
that's
thing.
called a free thinker.
Yeah, but no, I mean, like, he's a little nuts at the same time.
You need a little good
you need
crazy.
a little nuts. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, what do you want to tell your teacher right now?
I'm not sure.
You're talking to the camera. Tell her.
I'm not sure. Like, what?
Say thank you
Thank you.
for being here and for
Being
helping
here.
me through the semester.
Thank you for helping me for this semester.
And it was nice chatting with you the other day.
Yeah,
And
that was cool.
hopefully we can get through these assignments because we had a tornado.
That was nuts. How were we in the car?
So
the
we're
whole
still
time?
recording.
That was nice.
We're going to try to send this to you, Mrs. Kiefer and Kiefer. And thank you very much. Stevan is in the process of, like we said, thriving. Have a great day and a lovely summer.